Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about architects. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, what advice would you give a junior developer who wants to become a software architect? Well, I would start brushing up on all of the trend words around cloud solutions, everything related to cloud native, join the association, and subscribe to all of the newsletters and all of that stuff, because half of what you're going to do is, depending on if you want to be a good architect or if you want to be a really shitty one, depending on which role you want, I need to feel you out a little bit, because my advice will differ between giving you advice that will give you the right things on your CV versus the thing that will actually make the real difference. So it kind of depends, because I've met and I was scared shitless when I heard that. Like, I met a developer a few years ago. He had literally gone through the same education that I had. He just went through it a little bit later, and he was a software architect on his as his first job. Now, we didn't go into detail as to what type of customers he was working with, but I mean, I could just reflect on how horribly he must be fucking that job up, without most likely a lot of his customers realizing that, because you have no understanding, none, as to how to structure anything meaningful at that skill level. When you're a junior developer, you don't know how to build an architect, to create an architecture. You don't know anything. And even if you were to, I would say, learn cloud, like, because the thing is, guys, you can become a cloud solution type of character, or as the trend word I think today is, it's a solution architect, quote unquote. And a solution architect is, for all intents and purposes, if you're dealing mostly with infrastructure and cloud solutions, is going to be an individual who knows the products of say Amazon or Google or Microsoft or so forth. In many cases, it is the same thing. Like, I look at these people as not much different from someone who works in a retailing business, or who knows about electronics or anything like that. It's not necessarily the fact that you are a software developer, but you do know about the products and what the intents and purposes of these products in the cloud environment actually is. Now, if you want to become that sort of character, or that sort of architect, it is extreme. I mean, even if you want to be like a quality software architect, it is still important for you to understand that infrastructure is going to play a big part in what you need to understand. You need to understand how the cloud works and all the services and so forth, and you will need to understand things such as networking and what we talk about when we talk about virtualization, containers versus VMs, and trade-offs between the different types of constructs that you find in a cloud environment. Now, you can of course also be an architect that needs to work on-prem, which raises the stakes even further, because now you don't just have to, you actually need to have an understanding of what the limitations are between having a cloud-only solution, an on-prem solution, or a hybrid cloud, where you might have part of the system running on-prem and you might have some stuff that's running in the cloud. All of these sorts of things are going to be relevant to you. Apart from that, you're going to have to learn how to, like, the different types of architectures that, depending on the level as well, because this is where the key thing comes in. You can be involved in different types of work. When you're an architect, you can be at the very, like, really broad perspective, really high perspective. You're just giving roadmaps, but you can also be involved at a much lower level. And this is where I'm going to be a little bit opinionated, because I've been working with people who are supposed to have this sort of this role, and the number one, literally the number one question I get from developers who have been applying to positions at the workplaces that I've had is as soon as they get in the door, literally they ask, "Do we have an architect?" Because most of them who have been working with an architect that is the type that I just described, they don't want to work here anymore, or they don't want to work for us if we have such a person, because such a person is it's an individual that management puts in the company so that they have someone to point at and say, "You're responsible for this thing that we don't know how to fix." Because usually the time you bring in an architect is because you need someone either to talk to your customers, or you need someone who you can allocate the responsibility of maintaining like a eagle eyes perspective on the system. And because it is unsustainable for your company to deal with a lot of autonomous teams, because you simply have too many people that you need a level above them, and you need some way of managing them. And this has proven to be a problem for a lot of companies. I would even go as far as to say that if you in the software world, the greatest fear we have is to hire the wrong developer. Most companies, that's what they're scared of. Hiring the wrong developer can mean a lot of legacy and problems. I will say that the thing that you should be really scared of is hiring the wrong architect. No one can fuck up an entire a place of work as much as the wrong architect. I would say that we should reduce down the role of architect to mean basically you have earned that title. It should be the biggest badge of honor there is in our industry. I would look at it as being a composer or something like that in an orchestra. You should be the lead player or whatever. It should not be something uh, that you go into without earning it. And so if you want to be a architect in the truest sense, the best tip I can give you is to start off by learning software development. If you want to go about this and become someone who really is good at this, start as a software developer. Once you have understood how to work in a well, ideally you should start as a full stack developer, because basically at the end goal for you as an architect, your end goal is to have a fairly, I'm not saying that you have to be a master of everything, because no one is a master of everything, but you need to work your way through the stack so you actually understand how the stack works, because fundamentally all the decisions that you're going to make are going to be tied into the entire process of delivering software, and that means understanding what is the work of the software developer, what does their day-to-day look like, because if you can't get them to do the thing you want, then you're not going to be able to do your job. If you can't and then after you learned the full stack stuff and the daily application development, well, then you're going to have to pull it up to, all right, do you understand DevOps, operations types of things, or quality assurance and so forth? Do you understand how to set up work processes so that people can actually deliver the vision that you write down? And then once you have an understanding of how to do that sort of work, I really urge you to, and this should be something you kind of work on all across the board. Your soft skills are going to matter, because the day you become a architect, I can promise you that most of your time is going to be spent talking to people as opposed to writing code. The role of an architect is not that of a coder. Your job is basically to manage the conversation and deliver the vision to all the software teams. So your conversation is going to be between the engineers and the stakeholders. You're going to be the peak of the pyramid in the engineering department in many ways, and it is your job in essence to understand the business requirements and the future of the company and all the things that the stakeholders want from their engineering department, and create a vision, a roadmap, a blueprint, if you will, that the developers and all the teams can then follow and deliver. And to synchronize that, it is a really hard task, because usually, as I said, the really shitty architects, they will just deliver the vision, produce a blueprint, and then all the engineers kind of go, well, we don't really know what's going on. Like, they can't actually get the thing to where it needs to be. They're really good at talking, they're really good at talking to managers and so forth. And I mean, at the end of the day, that is a lot of what I can for a lot of them, that is their priority. They're not actually engineers. They're not actually able to deliver anything. Like, they're only able to talk. They're only able to give a good presentation or sell. Like, they're basically in many cases they're pointless middle managers that really only survives within the company because of their soft skills. And those soft skills are important, but without understanding the underlying mechanics of how to deliver a system, you won't actually be able to do anything with it. So what I want you to take away from this is that my best tips for you, if you want to be a software an architect, is that understand that if you want to go about this the right way, it's going to take years. Because if you want to be an effective software architect, the sort of person who can actually do the job well, you will need to understand this process of delivering software in a company, and that takes a while. You should ideally start as a software developer and go into DevOps oriented stuff. The DevOps related roles are probably the best ones, and then work your way through the stack until you have a full understanding of the people who make up a software team and the people who make up a software company. Your soft skills are going to matter more than anything else. You're going to have to learn to talk to people. You're going to have to learn how to sell visions and manage stakeholders. And by the time you get to be a software architect, that is primarily what you do. A lot of it is related to having conversations and meetings and so forth. And another part that is also extremely important is to have a very good understanding of infrastructure and cloud solutions and so forth. That is, at least today, what the main focus is for a lot of architects. You can dive into that directly if you want, but the your ability as a software architect is going to be very limited in comparison to someone who goes through it, as I like to say, the right way. You can think of the difference as someone who studies to become a general and someone who starts as a private and work their way up until they earn the title of general. Have a great day.